Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
From Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Q&A day, sleep-in Saturday, we call it, where you can sleep in a couple extra hours compared to the rest of the week. If you're listening to this on Facebook, we do this every day, practically. Every day, I say practically because sometimes we travel, can't do it. But we try to do it every day. And we do 5 days a week of studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a classic literature of ancient India of how to connect the soul to the divine. Very practical and useful. Even though it was ancient, it's very practical and useful wisdom. And we teach how to apply it to your life, to make your life smooth and wrinkle-free, despite the things that get thrown at us. And yeah, and this is a special day today. Yesterday was Krishna. It was a big holiday yesterday, Krishna's appearance day. Mm-hmm. And today is Prabhupada, our guru's guru appearance. And we'll talk a little bit about Prabhupada. And it is the kickoff of, Kastuba's about to get on a train right after the show. He's going to rush. Can you imagine Kastuba running down the street with like a briefcase?
That's like more or less what I'm going to be doing.
Running, catching the train and heading upstate to the country. Because it kicks off our second week of Ashram Week. And you'll see here people here.
Ashram Fortnight.
It's Ashram Fortnight. We're starting to call it Ashram 2.0 because it's the newer way to look at ashrams. And we have a big crew here. Say Harry Ball, everybody. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that with this podcast mic, but everybody said really loudly, enthusiastically. That's me imitating them. They're all here. And we got some we got some people who are just stragglers, lovely stragglers, like Vegan Truckers here live, the Naked Vikings here live, and John Burke and Dan Murphy are here painting the place. They're staying for the weekend, and it's just like we just have a nice community thing going. We had a great program last night of singing.
I saw photos. It looks incredible.
Did you see photos? We went on a pilgrimage through the farm. We had altars set up at different places in the farm. It was actually very cool. Yeah, it was a
big kirtan outdoors like that.
Big kirtan out. Kirtans were outdoors and indoors in the yoga studio, and then a big feast, and it was really great, really good experience.
Beautiful.
How was your Janmashtami? It
was awesome. Also, I was at the Bhakti Center. It got down there in the early evening, and it was like the whole thing just flew by. It's like a lot of people are fasting all day. You fast until midnight, but I wasn't feeling it at all because it was just like one thing. Sri Prahlad gave class, Achyuta Gopi, and her nephews. They did this kind of Leela Kirtan thing where she's telling the story of Krishna's birth, but like blending Kirtan into it, and it was very powerful.
She's next level talented.
No question. A storyteller as well as musician. And, it just went one thing after another. The entire night was beautiful. The temple, the altar and the way that Radha and Krishna were decorated was just outstanding. And then we ended it with, I was the last speaker right before the final darshan at midnight. And I just spoke for maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then and you know what I spoke, I started with you bringing up the Bilva Mangala Thakur yesterday and all that. We kind of started with little Krishna Karnamrita, and we went, but then after I spoke, we went into the Govinda Damodar Stotram with Genevieve singing a verse, and then I'm reading the translation, and it was, you do that for a good half hour, 45 minutes, and it just starts, you just start to get in this mood, it's just like,
She sang and you acted it out or something.
she sings the verses so beautifully, such beautiful poetry, and she would just sing it, so nice. And then I would read it.
Musical theater it.
Yeah, well,
I
don't
could
know.
see you doing musical theater, Kostuba.
You think so? But in any case, it was, it was a good formula, I think. And then the midnight darshan was absolutely stunning, and she led the kirtan for that. Sri Prahlad led a powerful kirtan. It was great, and I've met many great others there, So Krishangi was there, and her husband, they just finished their bike tour adventure. And I met a great guy named Ethan, who's from Connecticut. He's another who listens every day for 2 years now, and he plans on coming and seeing us. Really nice guy. And quite a few others. Jeffrey Ackler was there. Many others, actually. It was a beautiful, beautiful night. I got in at 2:15, a.m.
That's not good for you.
I'm doing all right so far. I'm doing okay. But now I'm fasting again because it's Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, like the next important holiday.
Well, in the old days, I was explaining how we used to do it in the ashram. We'd stay up all night.
Yeah.
Midnight, have a feast, and because we were the brahmacharis, we'd have to clean the entire temple up, clean all the pots, clean up the kitchen, and then it's already, at that time it's like 2:30, and you're about to wake up for Mangal Artik, so we just go right to Mangal Artik, and then there's a whole nother fast. That was always, crazy brahmachari's night out.
Yeah. So have you been honoring Prabhupada's appearance day as part of your thing up there so far?
We will. We're making kachoris, which were Prabhupada's favorite
nice.
food, and we're going to have that for a break fast at noon.
Okay.
And it was and I told a little bit of a story about Prabhupada and who he was and his significance, although his significance can never be really like even weighed, how weighty his significance, his coming, of his changing the trajectory of how the world will go, truthfully. Right down to things you like least, just like everything's boiling up, Kostuba, in the whole world right now. It's boiling. It's about to explode. It's like a volcanic eruption about to happen. And all these things he's saying, like, you got to live simply.
Yeah, you gotta go back.
Before tiny homes were a movement, Prabhupada was saying, you got to live simple. It's all going to
before
have a
vegetarianism,
vegetarianism,
so many things.
To implant these ideas in our brain. And now we realize, like, these are so important. It's like we're actually being forced to do these things. We're overwhelmed. It's the reason why I was telling everybody this morning. It's the reason why it's early in the morning after we stayed up late that we're rising early, sitting on the floor in the middle of a farm, having this program together.
Right. Yeah.
Is because this person was encouraging us and goading us towards an alternative. Because what's the opposite? It's just like, the material world is getting, how can I live like this anymore?
Yeah. And, you mentioned earlier that like he's the guru of our guru, but he's much, he's much more than that. It's like he is historically the person who pretty much single-handedly, as an old man, got on a boat all alone without any money, popped into the Lower East Side of New York and just began teaching this, and it's just miraculous what he accomplished in the last 12 years of his life.
It's like a self-help guru's dream come true. You have a vision, you can do it. It completely manifests. It's not like he's going, well, I'm going to try it, see what happens. I've got an American Express Platinum card. We'll make it work. If I can't find a place to stay, I'll just get, check into the, Four Seasons or the W and, stay there for a while. It didn't work. No one got into it. No, he had nothing.
Put it all on the line.
Like $8 or something, and a sponsor in Butler, Pennsylvania. Somehow this whole thing manifested. And another interesting thing was these books were like codified in this ancient language. And it's not just like straight translations, because there were translations of the Bhagavad Gita for about 150 years previously. But the goal of the Gita is to give your life to a transformational, a higher power that will transform your life. And we saw that happen. And that didn't happen with all the previous translations of the Gita. People took the Gita as, oh, this is a unique Oriental book. Oh, this is an interesting piece of timeless wisdom. And it goes in up on your bookshelf for intriguing reads for the summer. I will, delve into. But
Something
it
to
wasn't
discuss
that.
at the dinner party and impress
Exactly.
people with or whatever.
Exactly. But what the Bhagavad Gita is, it's a spiritual compass that people are meant to sort of like weave into the fabric of their life. And that's what Prabhupada did, because it's not an academic translation. It's a translation of one who's actually living that life.
Right.
And it shows you how to live that life, like living it and applying it to your life. And that's what we're doing right now, is we're trying to follow in those footsteps of how to take these ancient texts and make them applicable. And he was the one that showed how to do it.
At great personal sacrifice.
Incredible personal sacrifice. Within a span, I mean, it was his whole life in preparation. We get that. But in the time frame that it actually manifested, it was quite remarkable. It was like 10 years of intense translating, organizing a society, building temples all over the world, re-educating everybody, all the followers of the basic things, from hygiene, from health to spiritual practices, yeah.
Okay. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think of how many books were translated in that time.
Well, I mean, volumes upon volumes,
Volumes of books.
Yeah. But, normally on this day in the past years on our podcast, we've dedicated the entire show to Prabhupada. Today is our Q&A. But I would suggest if you want to kind of get into the mood today, go back to some of our earlier, it's there in the title. Like I think one's called Appreciating Srila Prabhupada. It's, roughly a year from, maybe someone can find those episodes and we can share the numbers of them.
Well, and I will say there's many, many great biographies about Prabhupada too, which need to be shared too.
I mean, the Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita by Sasrupa Das Goswami is like the real
great book,
official, long, extended version, incredible book.
I love Hare Krishna Explosion by Hari Agriva.
Yeah, that's a fun one too.
That's a fun one. That's a fun. I like it, taking place in the Lower East Side. I love I really resonate with Shama Sundar's, trilogy Chasing Rhinos with the Swami.
By the way, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami, the third one came out, and for the first time, it's available like to buy the entire trilogy together at a discount price.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I forget the website. Is it chasingrhinos.com or something like that? Mara,
No, but I'll look it up.
Okay.
Mara is a quite a fan of all the Prabhupada biographies. She's read them all. What's your favorite one, Mara?
But we gave her the Prabhupada Leela Amrita was it a Christmas gift or a birthday gift? And she has not finished it yet, Mara.
I haven't finished it. It's true. ChasingRhinos.com is the
They're changing the subject. I haven't read it because chasingrhinos.com.
What are some of your favorite biographies, Mara?
I was going to say that book by Joshua Green, Miracle on Second Avenue. Is that it?
That's Mukunda Goswami. Are you thinking of Swami from a Strange Land by Joshua Green?
Both of those I really like. I read those like right when I was first getting into all this. But yeah.
Read about Prabhupada today, everybody.
Yeah, it's a great day. And for our listeners, it's a big day because it's the passing. I don't know if we're calling it a celebration. We're not calling it a memorial, but one of our own left his body a month ago, and we're having his celebration today at his mother's house.
Great. I'm looking forward to being there for that.
To kirtan, feasting, and remembering our good friend Gopal Chandra Prabhu. So that's going to go on today.
Did you get that, Mara? Is it chasingrhinos.com or something?
It is, yes.
Chasingrhinos.com. Right. Check it out. It's a great opportunity to get the whole trilogy together, and that is a wild adventure.
I just got a message from
Shama Sundar?
Somebody that I can't remember. Giaco, is that his name? He works with Shama Sundar, and he says Guru Das's book is coming out also.
He already
And
had one, but I guess he's coming out with a second
he's
one.
coming out with another one. And he says it's really, really good about his
Okay.
time with Prabhupada. These are like the original people. These were like the frontiersmen of the spreading bhakti in the West.
Yeah.
And very, very interesting, cool people who did it.
Rogue, we
Okay.
better get into the questions.
Let's get into our questions, sir. I don't think I need glasses today because
You don't have to read anything. Maybe I don't need them.
I have to read the
I don't think
questions.
of it.
Of course I do.
So how are we
All right.
doing this, Rogan? These are questions from the people that are there as part of the
Yeah,
retreat right
I'm gonna call them here in here. Where's Bunky? Is Bunky here? Get over here.
And both of you,
Bunky's back.
That's great. Both you and
Right.
I are going to share the questions. Is that how we're doing it?
Yeah, we're gonna invite them on the screen live. We're today, everybody. We're having the people that are here live ask some questions. So if you remember Bunky, my old assistant, also talented singer, dancer, and part-time musical theater guy. Here's Bunky. He's back. We're happy to have him this week at Ashram Week. So Bunky, you got to speak right into the mic.
Up close. Hey, Bunky.
Hi. Oh, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
This filter's great.
Although I saw
Yeah.
you briefly at Rathiach or something, didn't I?
I was like,
saw
your
you.
complexion looks great. I
I
was
was
like,
like-
I was like, no, it doesn't.
Who is she? You want to hear my question?
Yeah, let's hear
Please.
your question, Bunky. You got to speak right in that microphone.
All right. My question is regarding one of the regulative principles:
Which one?
no intoxicants.
Okay.
Okay, this is gonna
Easier.
Be
I was thinking it could have been a tougher question. Okay.
Where does one? Good morning. Where does one draw the line between medicine and intoxicant?
Where does one draw the line between medicine and tickets? Do you have? Can you go a little deeper into that so can you be a little more specific?
Okay. In regards to like self-medicating, maybe,
Mhm.
maybe in regards to psychedelics, or also in regards to the use of maybe people who use like CBD to calm themselves down, or
Yeah.
sorry, Krishna.
micro doses, right?
Microdosing.
Microdosing of,
We're in a
psilocybin.
different world today. It's not as clear cut as it was in the past. I
Well, that's my
suppose, right?
point. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
This
kind
is
of
a good
like,
question.
you know, like
Okay.
when are we going astray? Like what is too much?
Gotcha.
good questions.
You know, I mean, because for me, like it was medicinal for me to do like a huge dose of mushrooms because that's what I used to like decompress from like you know, and now it's not. But it
Okay.
was.
Good.
It
I'm glad to
was.
hear that.
You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Bunky, good question, everybody. Good question.
Good
Okay,
question.
everybody seems to like that question here.
All right, Roger. Straight edge Acharya.
Well, you know,
Do you
I
draw?
can understand-
Are you like a hard line straight? That became a term at one point, right? Like hard
hard
I'm
line.
I'm
Yeah,
hard
you
line.
missed- that
straight
came
edge.
after I was already devoted. Then this was hard line. Hard line means we're freaking totally serious about this.
Okay.
Like it was like the dark force of straight edge. I think I had nothing to do
Like
with it.
no coffee or something like that. Is that what?
No, it was
hard
sort of
line meant?
like
Or I'll kill you if you.
something like, yeah, it had a darker edge. I don't want to go into the
Okay.
you can maybe Google that, what it meant. But here's an interesting thing. So someone like Bunky, I know he's shared, I don't think he'll mind me sharing that, you know, before they were devotees, they dabbled in psychedelics, had some spiritual experience from it. A lot of people said that. Ram Dass, you know, the famous Ram Dass, what was his name?
Albert.
Richard
Yeah.
Albert. They start, you know, they're Harvard professors and they were taking acid because they were getting some paradigm shifts. They see the world in a different way. And I get that. I get how the psychedelics can do that. And I get how they become connected towards spirituality. In this path, we don't look at it in that way. We believe that you don't need to go outside to get something inside. God can reveal and give you those realizations on your own. But I could understand how they could shift your paradigm, make you see the world in a different way. I had a similar experience.
Okay, we're gonna.
It will be revealed in my
Alright.
memoirs.
Okay.
But what he is saying, another part of that is, okay, now I'm serious about bhakti, but hey, there are things, people do suffer from a lot of anxiety in our community. That's a very real thing. Does that mean we have nothing to do? Do we divorce ourselves completely from it? Also things like marijuana as
Now
also
marijuana is like a common for like
e-
Parkinson's, I think it's like, right, like,
cancer patients. It has a lot of medicinal benefits.
yeah.
My answer is if it's in the mood of sense gratification, then it's a diversion. If it's the mood of keeping your life together so you can continue on with a positive, progressive life, you know what that is, and God knows what that is. And you can't trick God, and you can't trick, and you can trick yourself, but you can't trick God. So if you're doing something uh, to ground yourself where you can move forward in your spiritual life, but you got to make sure you're not medicating yourself to forget about your life. Right? Sometimes we can take we can medicate ourselves to forget about my issues. No, actually, issues are good. They should stir around within us so they surface so I can face them. But sometimes we are just there's too much that I'm actually collapsing and no good is coming from that. And therefore, a lot of these natural otherwise, you have this old paradigm of Hare Krishna 1.0, where you'll say, no, we don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't do intoxicants, but I'm taking all these pharmaceuticals. No, how is that any
I mean,
different?
that goes right to the question. In other words,
Yeah.
which pharmaceuticals are really like drugs, and which,
Yeah. And so I
like
think
intoxicants.
these are questions that should be like re-examined. I think those, I don't know enough about it because I don't do it, but I know the CBD oil without the DMT, or sometimes or CBD, or I don't even know enough to even talk about this because
Well,
I'm
here's
still
the
like,
point. I think the most essential part of what you just shared was like, what's your motive in doing it? Like, what is your purpose in doing this, right? And like,
right.
you take a question. It's interesting because I hadn't even thought about this before, but I do think, like when you and I got into this, it wouldn't have been such a complicated question, but it does seem like a rather complicated question in today's world.
Sure.
Where it seems, more gray because, a lot of things that would have just been seen as intoxication in the past are seen as medicinal nowadays. But in the past, you could have still asked the question, like, take another regulative principle, like gambling. When are you investing, in a business, and when are you gambling? It's
Isn't
pretty
that a
hard to draw that
gamble?
line. Right? Yeah, yeah. It's if I play the stocks, am I gambling? If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I got a great idea for a business and I'm looking for investors," am I gambling? Or am I a business person? Those lines aren't necessarily easy to draw. And so with this one, with when is it an intoxicant, and when is it a am I is it just like a medical treatment? I suppose one way I would approach it is, I have friends that are initiated devotees who have taken vows not to take intoxicants that are, I don't how if you have Parkinson's and you're taking marijuana, are you smoking it, or I don't even know.
Yeah. The Bunky says yes.
Yeah.
You're smoking it.
So
I don't think the people with Parkinson's are doing because let's skip school and get high.
yeah, right.
You know what
Or
I
let's
mean?
just escape my stress from the day and get high. And you said, like, if it's keeping myself together, I think that's a very cloudy thing too, because it's like I can just start to become dependent on this to escape reality. You know. I wish I could give a more conclusive answer, but I suppose that's the kind of thing. If I felt I had a medical need for something, and for something that might be categorized as an intoxicant, if I felt I had a medical need for it, I suppose it is the kind of thing where I begin to consult with people that I respect, and try to. It may be that the answer to this question is really more individual. Where you draw that line might be
You
quite
know what?
tricky.
I think too. These are going to be individual questions according to what you're going through at the time, and I
But
think they
yeah,
need like individual answers, and that's why we need individual teachers in our life that can like really hear us out and say, I think this is going to be all right. I think you should move forward with that. And
but I like where you started. I suppose it has something to do with, like, am I trying to, I remember when we had Dunya on the show once, who's so insightful in so many different ways, and the question was brought up about I think we're talking about like what people call nowadays like self-care,
Oh yeah.
right? Or self-love, sometimes they say. And we're describing, well, that what, is that just like an indulgence, like a pampering, like kind of like entirely unyogic, right? Or it's entirely bodily, entirely sensory, or even sensual, and it's just like my trying to lose my yogic insight and absorb myself in my own body and bodily pleasures and bodily comforts. Or and she drew an interesting line. She said, if it's something that you're doing to kind of restore your own nervous system, right, so that you can be healthy, so that you can serve, if that's your motive and that's your insight, and you're drawing, and again, like these things, particularly when it's coming to, like intoxicants, it's going to take a lot of sincerity, and a lot of and maybe counsel, but I don't want to draw that line, but I think where that line gets drawn is that difference between, am I doing this to escape reality? Am I doing this to numb myself out? Or am I doing it because this will help me, be focused and be active and be of service? I think that's where the question, that's where we're examining, right? One thing I want to mention is we have Jiva here, like our who's heading up our Bhakti recovery, and she's saying, for addicts, this is a whole nother question. It's like drugs are drugs, and
maybe we should unmute Jiva for a moment.
Are you interviewing Jiva tomorrow, right?
Yeah, Jiva's going to be unmuted.
You got to mention that. Announcement. Make an announcement.
Yeah, Jiva, we're having a Bhakti recovery thing tomorrow on interview day. We're going to interview Jiva, talk to some other people who got a lot from the Bhakti recovery meetings we did in Italy, and
nice.
Share a little bit about, like, what is it? Is this for just like the destitute alcoholics or drug addicts? And we'll find out that the recovery program is so much more than that. Jiva, you want to share about this? Are you unmuted?
About the interview or about Bunky's question? Hey,
no, about Bunky question. Bunky's question. Or intoxicants, how this differs from person following a 12-step path. Please share.
Okay. So really important. The very, 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 very first thing is that we never make those decisions alone. Those are decisions that you counsel your sponsor or your fellows in the program with. I was also faced with those kind of situations where I was really on my deathbed, went in a coma and came out of the coma two days later. Horrid story, doesn't matter. But I was also presented with a question because of the excruciating pain that I had. Should I take opiates or not? And I said no. I said, just give me anything you have that doesn't, mood or mind doesn't alter my mood or mind, and see if it works. And then,
that's because there is a chance as an addict, you would have been like, I like ye. I want to keep this going. Yes. I think I need a little more. Look, there's a tendency to bring out that cheater in you. Is that it?
Oh, totally. Hey, when I stopped nursing my daughter, I had this horrible abscess because the milk duct was completely infected. So I went to the doctor, and I was not really in the program. I was young. I was sort of in the program, sort of not. And the doctor convinced me that it was okay to take codeine because it was so painful.
Cocaine.
Okay.
Yeah,
I said cocaine is great for that.
My doctor says cocaine's great.
So I take codeine, and 6 months later I'm back on heroin again. Right. So it's not, it's not for the doctor to decide. It's not. Right. We really need to be clear of the motives. That's why we do the 12 steps. Because when we do the 12 steps and go through that process, then we're clear of our motives, and we have a sponsor, and we have all the backup. So it's not like a cut dry thing, but it's like a gun. That's what I wrote, right? A gun is a gun is just a gun, right? A gun.
Rug was with you there.
I'm
anything. With you, yeah. Guns are good. Do anything. Guns are good, people. We need more guns.
Yeah, no, gun is just a gun. It's neutral, but in the hands of a criminal, it's not good anymore. Right. And in the hands of a good person, it's there for defense or whatever, And it's the same with like medicinal marijuana. CBD oil without the THC is anyway useless. But I would definitely say if there's someone who's not an addict and they have Parkinson's or some, really heavy disease that only cannabis oil helps, then hey, more power to you. It's better than any kind of pharmaceutical. But for the addict,
it's tricky.
So I
tricky.
think that's a great answer, Jiva. Thank you. And so
Yes,
I
you're
think it
welcome.
does go back to that thing where I don't want to make these one of the human what was it? The human frailties or the human faults is that we have a tendency to cheat.
In
And we
ourselves. Yeah.
right tend to cheat ourselves. So there is this tendency where I have to make this decision. There's a fork in the road, and I'm going to cheat what my material desires want. And that's why it's always good to have friends that you respect or teachers in your life that you can bounce these off of. And it's, by the way, we shouldn't find teachers, therapists, gurus that will just agree with everything we want to do. We should find
Co-signing our
people
bunk.
right co-signing our nonsense. No, we
Yes.
need people who are going to call us out in our life, or else there's going to be no growth. So good question. Bring in a third party. And thank you, Jeevan. Great question. Bunky's got do you have more to that question?
I feel like it's gonna make it longer.
All right, let's move it on. Thank you, Bunky.
Bunky, call me and mute me now. You can mute me.
Okay, call Jiva, Bunky.
Well, we are planning on muting you real quick, Jiva. But don't worry, Jiva. You get the whole show of being unmuted tomorrow. Jiva's got one of the she's when Gob was handing out big mouths, me and her were in the same line together. And Jiva like that. We are sort of like twinnies. All righty. We have Yvette. Where's Yvette? Come on, come into the chair,
Oh,
Yvette.
bad.
If you know Yvette, she's a great Saveite here. She's a regular Zoomer, and she's here doing service. Hare Krishna. There's a great filter on. I don't know how to. I didn't put this filter on because I was looking at myself in the Zoom camera. I was like, man, I'm looking pretty damn good. And now I'm realizing. And then Bunky's like, man, you got a filter on this thing. I was like, oh, you mean I don't look like that? And you look pretty good too here, but you look good without the filter too, Yvette. I just want you to know that. Now speak right into that microphone.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, this is a good
Hey,
question.
Yvette.
All right. So my question is, my dad is going to be
A little closer to the mic, please.
Right in there.
my dad's going to be 75 soon, and he's not in great health. He's been smoking most of his life, and he's on oxygen. So I've been stepping up and doing more
I'm
service.
sorry, Yvette, just a little. You got it right in that mic.
Get in
Like,
there.
right straight
All
into
right.
it. There we go.
So I've been stepping up and doing more service for my father because his health isn't so great. He can't do some of the things he used to be able to do.
Okay.
And he's been eating meat most of his life.
Mm.
So part of what I've been doing is stopping at the store and getting him meat to serve him. And it really bothers me. So my question basically is it more of an offense to serve him meat or not serve him at all?
Good question. Very good question.
Another one of these regulative principles. Where do we draw the line?
Yeah, how do you draw the line? That's what we want to know. And there's no good answer for that one. There's no good answer. And yeah, things could work out either way. Because Stuba, please answer this question for us.
That's a difficult. Again, it's one of those judgment thing. I get the point. In other words, you've got a conviction in your life. You ethically, you have a problem with this, and at the same time, you have a father that's very old and frail, and he's not about to change his habits. And even if you spoke to him about it, you wouldn't be able to change his habits. And he's got to eat, and he needs somebody to help him. What do you do? It is tough. I know several initiated devotee women, who sometimes have to serve meat to their husbands who aren't devotees, and I know that they're really good devotees. They're really dedicated. So I honestly, I think if I were in your shoes, I would see if there's any way out of it. Like, in other words, to see one, if there's another person that could handle that part of the service, or if there's any way that he would be able to change his diet. But I'd imagine you've done that, and that's just not the case. And if you have, I would say that you're doing it externally because you're trying to be of service to your father and trying to help him, and he needs help. And internally, you know that this isn't something that you want to do, and this isn't something that you support. I don't think you're losing any of your bhakti what's the word I'm looking for? Like punya, in a sense, your devotional.
Piety.
Yeah, your devotional piety, your devotional. I don't want to kind of like use a word that sounds too like in other words, your credit or something like that. But in other words, I don't think your bhakti will be hurt by this. That's my point, right? The point is you're cultivating a relationship with God in your heart. And as we practice bhakti, we want to do all that we can. We see it as a tender creeper, right? Like a tender vine that's sprouting out of the ground, and it needs to be that devotion that we're trying to develop, that divine love that we're trying to develop. We want to guard that carefully. And that's the reason why we follow these regulative principles and so on. We say, let me move through this world in a way that's nonviolent, and let me see the soul in every living being so that I can understand God and please God more. And part of that commitment is saying, I won't eat meat. I won't have anything to do with that, because I recognize that, it's causing pain to another living being. It's not necessary for me to do. That's your commitment. You've made that commitment. Now you're put in a difficult, tricky situation. I don't think if you've checked and tried the other possibilities and there's no way around it, then I don't think that this is going to be held against you in the cosmic, universal, divine realm. I think your mind is clear, your heart is pure, and you're stuck in one of those dark, cloudy situations that this world is built on, right? Even the Gita will say, what is it that every endeavor is covered by some kind of fault, right? That's the way this world is. We do our best to be pure. We do our best to be. Maybe all our actions can't be pure. Maybe the way that I support my family is I work for some kind of corporation or agency that does some harm in the world. And I wish I could work for someone that, some company or corporation that did no harm, but that's a little difficult to find in the world right now,
Hey,
so
you're paying taxes. That's going to, you're creating some harm with
in
that.
so many ways. Yeah, it's very hard. And one reason why we should be careful not to be too judgmental of people is because that is the nature of this world. It's screwed up. It's like, it's a messy world that we live in, and even Krishna recognizes that when he says, every endeavor is covered by something. He's telling Arjuna, you got to fight this war right now. And he says, yeah.
Jiva is on the message board is making an interesting point, and I could slant with her a little, which is, hey, you know what? There's vegan meat out there, people, and sometimes you could trick them. I know that sounds crazy. You can trick the old man. You can trick the old man. You can trick the old man by saying, hey, because when I first became a vegetarian, I was really, before when I ate meat, I was really into ham sandwiches. Is when I ate regular processed cheese and stuff. So I would make what I'd call vegetarian ham sandwiches, which consisted of lettuce, a piece of like Kraft slices, mayonnaise, and mustard. And I realized this tastes just like a ham sandwich without the ham. I don't really even miss the ham. It's all the condiments that make it taste like the sandwich. You could get that, the Beyond Beef, throw on the pickles and the tomatoes and the whatever you put on the ketchup and say, here's the burger. It's a new place that opened up. It's, yeah, they're really good. Everybody loves this place. And every other place shut down. Trick the man. Trick him. Because what you don't want, here is she's sincere about her spiritual life. What you don't want to happen, and this is where I disagree with Jiva, is you don't want this guy who's dying to resent you and Krishna, because there's going to be no good of that. Every time you take care of yourself spiritually, you benefit the people around you. And even if they're doing all types of nonsense, even if they're criminals, if they're thinking in their heart, these devotees are wonderful, they get benefit from that. If they're, how dare they push their spiritual self-righteous bull on me? When they start to create those offenses in their mind, it affects them in a negative way too. It's very interesting little point to hear both sides. I'd say first trick them. Trick them and just say that they're out. All the other places.
I don't know if I trick them, but I might say, hey, here's an alternative or something. That's another thing. Maybe that's an avenue that hasn't been explored.
Don't even tell them.
I don't know how ethical it is to feed people stuff and lie about it. I'm not sure
Oh,
about
it's
the
fair.
ethics of that either. Okay, but in any case, honestly, this is I go back to where I started. This is, if you're asking me, this is my answer. Yeah, I think it's a serious decision, and it's not one that you take, it's not one that you make easily, and it's not something that you're going to be doing for your whole life. And but I think if I were placed in that position, I would seriously consider serving the person I meet, and in your heart, you know that this isn't something that you want to do. You know that I'm dealing with someone who's so habituated, who's incapable of taking care of himself, and it's just one of those. That's how I see it. Jiva may disagree. Okay, well, I disagree with you, Jiva. I think that in this particular case, Krishna knows your heart. Sure, there are these different rules. You read Shastra, and there's going to be different rules. Like, and these are important statements. Like someone is bringing up, like
The six.
I believe it's from Mahabharata.
The
Yeah,
six people implicated in the killing of a cow.
Yeah, and it's not just the person that actually kills it; it's the person that eats it; it's the person that serves it; it's the person, it's like
cleans up after
sells
that
it.
person.
Yeah, like all those things. I totally get that, and I totally accept all that.
I tell my kids that too, because my kids are talking, oh, I want to get a job in a restaurant. I think you can get tips. I was like, you should understand you are implicated in that as well. So
Yes.
it's sort of like, are you evil for serving meat to a person? Like in a restaurant situation? Not evil, but you should understand, to the degree that you play with fire, there's chances you're going to get burned.
Yeah,
And you get your hands dirty.
and I would see that as a very different situation. Like, I'm going to consciously work at a restaurant that serves meat. No, then I'm going to go and try to find another restaurant. But if my dad is on his deathbed and he needs to eat today and he's not going to eat anything else and he's got no one else to help him, to me, that's a different circumstance.
Oh, he'll eat. He'll eat.
That's fake stuff.
Everyone will eat. You just got to get them hungry enough. Hare Krishna. Okay, that was good. That was good though. I liked your answer. I get it. Okay. We have time. Can we bring somebody else on?
Yeah, we got 10 minutes.
Okay. Where is what else do we have here? Oh, Bhakta Bailey. Bhakta Bailey. Come on down. Bhakta Bailey, straight edge guy from Buffalo, New York. And he's here for Ashram Week. Welcome, Bhakta Bailey. He's been an other. And
you know what I want to say? I want to say one more thing though, Raghunath, on this. If you don't mind.
What's up?
Well, just yesterday we were talking on the show and Srila Prabhupada was talking about prostitutes. Right?
Yeah.
And he said that in India, many prostitutes are great devotees. Right. And so, and he said, but by some trick of chance, they've ended up in this circumstance. And so what he's saying is these are people that are clearly breaking the regulative principles, right? For a living, right?
Yeah.
But he's saying, but the external situation is in this world is tricky. I see what Yvette's going through as a trick of chance, right? I don't think
trick of chance.
Yeah, I don't see it. I see it as again, I would explore all other options, but I see it as a trick of chance. She got put in a difficult situation that she wouldn't be in normally, and it would be another thing if again, it's one of those things where seeking counsel is a good idea and carefully considering it in deep introspection and so on, but I see it as a trick of chance, and there's not a really good alternative either way, and so you do what you got to do, but Krishna sees your heart.
Okay. Kastuba giving thumbs up to meat eating and prostitution.
And gambling. Right. Why don't we move on to gambling now? When do we?
My father wants to go to Vegas before he dies, and he wants me to bring him. No. Okay. Here is Bhakta Bailey from Buffalo. Look, he's got a Lord Chaitanya shirt on. Bhakta Bailey, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself, how you got into all this, and get right at here. You got to stick right. You can sit right on the chair with me here. Let's just get your face in there too.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
That didn't work.
Hello.
Hare Krishna.
Before you ask your question, tell your story. How you got here? What's your deal?
Yeah, since Raghu asked, I kind of got into bhakti through the sort of hardcore connection, playing in bands and stuff, and listening to, Cro-Mags, Shelter, stuff like that, and eventually found myself with a Barnes & Noble gift card and then a Bhagavad Gita, and just kind of snowball from there. So
great.
welcome. Going to my question. Thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay.
What a nice guy.
Nice guy. Looks pious, doesn't he?
So my question, so if we are in this material realm, due to our choice to use our free will to attempt to enjoy separately from Krishna, then what good is our free will generally? So if we didn't have free will, would we just be perfectly using our, would we just be dharmic, just pure devotees?
Yeah.
And so then, what good can possibly come from our free will?
If our free will has gotten us in such a mess, then why does God give us so much free will?
Yeah, what's the use?
Good
Sort of
question.
a good question. It's sort of like, God, are you just setting us up? We really have one option. Is that it, God? You're just not telling us that, because every time we try to use our free will, it gets us into big trouble. So it's sort of like you're making this, you're making some rules, but there's really, what you're really saying, there's only one rule, because the other thing is like a mousetrap. Every time I move towards something that appears attractive, it's snapping me in half and breaking me down. What do you think, Ostuba? Why is this some trick God's playing on us, or is it?
Yeah. Well, this question was placed to Srila Prabhupada on, and I've heard him speak on it on many occasions.
Good question, Bailey. Thank you.
But this goes back to the topic we were discussing earlier in the week. Was it earlier in this week, or was it maybe last Friday? But this question about what is our dharma, right? Like every in one sense, every object has a dharma, has a purpose. This pair of glasses it's designed with a purpose, right? Which is to help someone see better, read better. I could try to use it for other purposes, but it's well engaged when it's engaged in the purpose for which it was designed. And so, the great Vaishnavacharyas, the great teachers in our lineage have said, that we all, every living being shares an eternal dharma, and that eternal dharma is to serve with love, and that love. This is now we're getting right to the point. Love requires free will. Love is something that cannot be forced, right? You can't put a gun to someone's head and say, "Now love me," that you can't force that emotion on someone. It's not a robotic thing. It's something that comes from the individual. It's something that arises in one's heart within the context of free will. And without that free will, there's no meaning to it. And it's interesting, Raghunath, I've been just researching something lately.
Tell me.
Just hearing from different speakers of Vedanta on the meaning of life, and within the schools of Vedanta, like there's a devotional school, a bhakti school, which we follow it that way, and there's other schools that are monistic schools, or schools that believe that ultimately there's no personal God or no individuality in reality, that there's no two, that ultimately everything is one, and we all just merge into one divine energy in our perfection. And so I've looked among some of the most prominent speakers of Advaita Vedanta on the question of what is the purpose of life. And what I found is they have a very difficult time. They really don't answer this question. They'll say that this is the wrong question to ask, or they'll say, something like, "Oh, needing a purpose is just be," or something like that, And I find that
Just
what?
be. I hate that answer. Just be. What is it?
And there's a lot of talk, and it's intellectual talk, and it's following a certain type of logic. But honestly, I get it that there's certain topics that are of another realm and that are difficult for us to, like, particularly things that involve time. Like if you're talking spirituality, there's no time. We have a hard time kind of wrapping our heads around certain questions, and certain things may be beyond our limited perspective to fully understand. But when it comes, if a philosophy can't speak to this most fundamental basic question, what is the purpose of our life, then I have a little trouble with it. And if someone says, just don't ask that question, I'm sorry, I need more. And so within Bhakti Vedanta, we understand that the very purpose of our life is to serve with love. That's what we're designed for. And that's what every living being is running around this world searching for, because it is our nature. And the reason why we find ourselves in the predicament that we find ourselves in, the reason, is because we're not living it. What we've chosen with our free will not to live that dharma, not to live that purpose. And then the world is designed in such a way where when we're not living that purpose, we hurt each other, we hurt ourselves, and we're meant to wake up through that and turn back to our divine purpose. So that within that paradigm, I can see, okay, this world does have a purpose, right? There is some meaning. If I am God, then I ask the question, well, then why am I suffering? Why are there influences that are greater than me causing my suffering? And your answer is just don't ask that question. I have a little trouble with that. I think there may be a weakness in your theology or your philosophy. Whereas if I understand that my purpose is divine love, with my free will, I've chosen not to live that purpose. And therefore I put myself in a prison, in a sense, until I can relearn my purpose. That makes sense. So going back to the original question, our purpose is to serve with love. And love requires free will. And when we're living that purpose, and when we're reestablishing that purpose, all the suffering that our free will got us into will seem like a dream, like a blip, like it was just a momentary lapse of our living our truth. But the gift of that dharma, to experience prema, divine love, eternally, the free will and whatever trouble we may have put ourselves in with it is well worth it, because that's that eternal divine love, that eternal bliss is it's that atma supersiddhiti, is the complete satisfaction of the self. All that requires free will.
I like.
You all right with that?
I am all right with that. Are you all right with that, Bailey?
Thank you very much, Kastuba.
Thank you for the nice question.
Buffalo's always Amber's from Buffalo too, who's listening to the show. Buffalo's always been an interesting spiritual vortex, believe it or not.
Yeah, or in the early days, the Krishna consciousness movement, so many important people came out of Buffalo.
Came from Buffalo, and Henry Shulkoff's got the Shulkoff power plant, I think, in Buffalo too. That's from Henry's.
And I think
great grandfather.
You had your divine near-death experience in Buffalo.
Yes, I did. That's where I got beat down and clubbed with a baseball bat a few times, and God spoke to me. It's in my book.
All right.
I think that's it for the show, Kastuba.
That's it. But big show tomorrow with Jiva.
Big show, Bhakti Recovery Group. If you're interested in Bhakti Recovery, even if you're not recovering from drugs or alcohol or things like that, we're gonna explain how recovery helps you dig deep into any type of gross or subtle trauma that you have, that helps excavate the soul so we can move forward on a spiritual path. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Looking forward to it with Jiva and friends. And Kastu, I'm going to see you in a little bit, and Mara in a little bit, when we meet up for Gopal's celebration of his life.
That's right.
I'm looking forward to it. An
See you
ecstatic
soon.
week of Ashram Week. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks to everybody on Facebook. Facebook people, join us every day if you want. Get the codes to join our Zoom group. It's even more fun because there's like an ongoing, there's a huge debate going on right now about dog food. But if you want to join the dog food debate, you can. Or feeding or tricking your parents into eating foods they don't want to eat. You can do that too. Join our debate here. All you do is you email Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and she will give you the secret codes to enter. Isn't that exciting?
Very exciting.
Wisdom of the Sages retreat happening in October. Go to wisdomofthesages.com at the farm. You can join me and Kastuba and Mara up here on in October. And also Chant Camp, California, especially Californians or anyone who wants to go to a great retreat center in Northern California. Go to Mara, what is it? It's Chant Camp, California. He's muted.
Mandala.org.
Mandala.org. Check that out and join us there. That's going to be a great weekend.
And Bhakti Stock too next weekend.
Bhakti Stock next weekend. You can go. BhaktiStock.com. Use Ragu30 as a discount code when you sign up. You get a discount. And we'll see you there. We're looking forward to seeing you. Thanks, everybody. Hands in the air. Thanks to our live people. Give it up. Over my home.